All right, everybody. Hey, it's Brian Ketchum here from Fitness Revolution, and I am excited and honored to be here with Josh Bowen, JB, the Buff Gandhi, right? That's the hashtag. Um, Josh is the 2018 PFP Trainer of the Year, and so as a part of that, we gave away to the winner a membership to our coaching program. And so we've been working with Josh just a little bit, starting the relationship. He's got a really interesting story. Been through a lot in the fitness industry, seen kind of every aspect of it. In the trenches, behind the scenes. He's seen a lot of it. And so I wanted to interview him and talk about his journey, maybe even get into some of the challenges that he's experienced and provide anyone watching here with tips on how you could overcome those and maybe get some insight into how to make faster progress with your fitness business, or maybe just be okay with the fact that this is going to be a journey for you and learn from this. So Josh, man, thank you for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate
Uh,
it.
so you've been in the industry for 12 years, right? And
Well,
so,
actually, I'm going on 14.
okay, so 14. So give us a little bit of background. How did you start in the industry? What's been your path to get to where you're at now?
Well, we'll say 2002, I was working in a retail job, and I was at a community college here in Lexington, and I really didn't have a whole lot of direction. And this girl who was in getting her secondary education degree to teach, she asked me what I wanted to do, and I said, well, I wanted to do something with sports, just like any man I was like 19, 20 years old. And she's like, well, you should really major in like kinesiology. And I was like, I have no idea what the hell that means. So I remember going home that night, and I got on the University of Kentucky's website and I looked at kinesiology, and I was like, okay, I can do this. So I went, and at the community college, I took the classes I could transfer to UK, that I would need in order to be able to get that degree. From there, I was a junior at UK, and my mother suggested that I start personal training. And I looked at her and said, no way. I've watched trainers. It's not something I want to be a part of. And she said, well, I really think that you'd be good at it. So will you, get your certification? I'll pay for it. So I went and got my ISSA certification. She paid for it. I went through it like a fine-tooth comb. I learned everything there was about anatomy, physiology, and I was hooked. I was like, this is what I've been searching for forever. And then by happenstance, I met a girl in Las Vegas who happened to be from Lexington, who a few months after meeting her, I had gotten certified, and she had gotten a sales position at the gym, and she needed trainers. And then she said, hey, listen, can you do this? I said, absolutely. So I started personal training in 2004. And I realized that I really had a passion for the clients. And I also realized that this was not about exercise. This is very much about this. And so I started researching more about psychology and getting into that aspect. And then I realized that other trainers were approaching me for information. And I'm like, these guys have been doing this way longer than I have. But I had a different perspective, a different way of doing things that I had no idea. I just kind of just did this on my own because nobody taught me. And fast forward 2 years, I had an opportunity to do some continuing education for a group of trainers in Louisville. We had just purchased 3 Gold's Gyms in Louisville, and it's 70 miles up the road, about an hour and a half drive. And my regional manager asked me if I would go up and interview the trainers that we had purchased the clubs from. So I did. And I went up there and I talked about expectations. I talked about, what it took to be a great trainer, kind of got their info of what they do. And I remember reporting back to him saying, hey, listen, we're going to have to wipe the clean slate. Not a good vibe. Have fun. And he looked at me and he asked the one question that I think changed my life. He said, well, what are you going to do about it? And I'm like, what do you want me to do about it? I'm just a trainer, So then my mind started working. I was like, okay, I put together a plan. And I remember reaching out to Ace, and Ace gave me a 25% discount off all of their certification materials. So I had all these trainers purchase the certification. I went through every chapter, made PowerPoint presentations. I would go up there every Saturday. This is for free. I didn't ask for any money, okay? I did this on my own free will. And I went up there for, I gave them 2 months to get certified. And the company started realizing what I was doing. And they were like, okay, at the time, I think we had 22 Gold's Gyms. We were the largest Gold's Gym franchise in the United States. And they were like, okay, well, Josh is doing all this for free, and we really need this because like 60% of our trainers are not certified, and most of them probably aren't qualified to do what we need them to do. Just let him have it. So I remember having a meeting. Okay, Josh, I got no idea what your title is. I got no idea what your responsibilities are. That's going to be on you. But here's the company. So I went from being a trainer, training 100, 120 sessions a pay period, to now I'm an executive with no title, no responsibilities, and I got to figure out how to work this thing in 20-some Gold's Gyms in 3 states. And on top of that, we're about ready to explode and build 11 clubs in 1 year. And I got to learn how to pre-sale. I got to learn how to hire and fire and staff 11 clubs in Columbus, Cleveland, Nashville, Charlotte, all these different places.
Nothing like getting thrown in the fire, huh?
I did. It was the hardest thing I've ever had to do, but it was the best thing because it literally made me learn about myself. Now, mind you, the leadership that I had, terrible. Worst leadership you could have. Lead by title, and that's it. There's all that they gave me. So I realized, okay, I need to start reading John Maxwell's leadership books. I need to start learning about business. I need to start learning about a lot of things because I got no clue. And I just worked my way through, and finally I got it to the point where, I was basically leading a $35 million personal training department, and everybody knew me. I hired and developed over 1,000 trainers in a 7-year period. Did a lot of continuing education with trainers. And the one thing that I would like to kind of brag about myself is I keep in contact with these people. And I haven't, we sold Urban Active in 2012. So there's still these people that I've hired and helped, and they're off doing great things in the industry. Now then, this is a long story, by the way. Then LA Fitness 2012 comes along, and they're going to purchase us. The reason why we had to sell is a long story we don't need to get into. But we got 36 gyms in 7 states, $35 million personal training department, top 5 fitness outfit in the United States, according to Club Industry. LA Fitness comes knocking, the big kahuna, okay? Worth $1.3 billion, got 600 clubs. They come, and they've bought everybody. They bought Bally's, they bought, you name it, they bought them. And I thought they would just eat us up and forget about us. And they came knocking, and they really liked me. They liked what I did. And they said, we've seen a lot of people like you, but you're the only one we want. And we're going to move you to L.A. We're going to pay you a lot of money, and you're going to do exactly what you did for Urban Active for us. The answer to that was no. They wanted me to do everything underneath their umbrella, and I would not be who I am. No Buff Gandhi, no Josh Bowen, nothing. And I remember I had a speaking engagement at the NSCA Personal Training Conference, while we're still urban active, but they're in the process of buying us. And they're like, well, you won't be able to do that for us. And I was like, okay, that's it. I'm done. So they purchased us. I worked for them for 2 days and I quit and I had no money, nothing. And I went back into a friend of mine's personal training studio and I started working. And then 2 years after that, I opened my own place. And, we've raised over $100,000 for charity. And in January, that'll increase to $150,000 for charity, which is the thing I'm most proud of. And, that's my story in a nutshell.
That's a pretty awesome story. I mean, you've been through a lot there, and I think the biggest thing is really following the message I got from that was like, trust your gut, follow your passion on this stuff. Like, not necessarily chasing the money on it, because it would have been easy to take that job, a lot of money doing what you've been doing.
It was a lot of money, more money than I would have ever made anywhere else, but it wasn't worth it to me.
That's really inspiring. So now as you've started, Aspire, what have been the challenges that you've seen as you've tried to, as you went through opening, and then also as you've been growing it, trying to get it to where you want it to be?
The challenge initially had nothing to do with client acquisition, client retention, because I took clients that I had already had and I was able to take those with me because I generated them myself. The challenges have been external things. The biggest challenge ever put in front of me in this part of my career has been the big boxes, because they've come after me. They've taken me to court. They have sued me. And because I'm a threat to them. And, I had a lawsuit with a big box gym in town, and I won't go into too much detail because I don't want it to come back at me. But they really wanted to put me out of business, and I stood toe to toe with them and wouldn't lay down and die. And it's been a challenge from that standpoint. The easiest part of the business to me is the client part, from a standpoint of getting the client and then understanding exactly what I need to do for that client. The hard part is, it's everybody's different. And I think as trainers from a practitioner standpoint, we burn out because we really get into this thinking that it's about fitness. It's not. Fitness is a small part of it. And I'll always draw it out and say, okay, here's fitness, but fitness impacts this, that, personal relationships, mental health, etc. The things that are more important, because if you don't have those, you don't have this. So from a practitioner standpoint, that's a challenge for most trainers. From a business standpoint, my challenges have had nothing to do with me. They've just impacted me. But as long as you are a business person or in business for the right reason, which is not to make money. That's not why you're in business. You're in business because you want to solve people's problems. If you can find out what their problems are, which we all know, obesity and things of that nature, that's the problems that we solve. You can be in business as long as you want.
So from a client acquisition standpoint, since that's something that you've excelled at, not really been a challenge, what do you think has made you successful at that? Or what have you learned over time that makes that something that's not a challenge for you that maybe other trainers, other business owners aren't doing?
I think the number one thing, the reason why it's not been a challenge is because we've done so much community work. Everyone associates this brand with things that we do for charity. If I go somewhere, people will associate me with the charities that I've worked with. It not because I've, had a 50-pound weight loss with Mrs. Jones. And not that we haven't had those, but they'll associate me with that. And I think that's what draws people here, is they see us on TV with charities. They hear about the 24-hour event that we run, where we're, I'm training for 24 hours, raising a lot of money for charity. The books, last Friday I was in Louisville deadlifting for veterans. I think that's the number one reason why. Number two is just, if you do good work, people will tell people about it. You can have the greatest social media. I don't. I don't spend a lot on marketing. I have no strategy when it comes to social media. I post what I feel like in the moments, and that grabs people sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't. But people come to me because they've heard about this, that, or the other from other people. Not to say that in other models you won't need those things, because those things are very important. You know that. That's what you specialize in. And that's what you all are teaching me. But, I think if you have the first two, that last part, the ins and outs of marketing, that only takes you to a whole other level.
With that, it's the authenticity, I think, that makes you successful with that. We've seen it with several other people. You can put a good social media plan in place. You put a good marketing plan in place. It's only going to work as well and be long lasting. Like, sustainability is key here. Because anybody can do a flash in the pan, throw out a challenge, promise big results, bring in some people. If you're willing to do the work and maybe put some money towards it. The sustainability factor comes from the authenticity. So the posting in the moment, the involvement in the philanthropy and charity, which we'll get to as well. We'll dive a little deeper into that. It's about that authenticity. We have someone else in a coaching program, more rough around the edges, but he has a structured plan, but everything is very authentic for his social media. And he's just who he is. And some people it rubs the wrong way, and other people it doesn't. And he doesn't care about that. He wants the people that it doesn't. And so that plan is there.
Let me touch on that, okay? Most people are very surprised that when they hear me on video or they hear me speak in public that even comes out of me, because I carry myself in such a way that I don't care what people think of me. So that can rub people the wrong way, just like the other guy you mentioned. Mm-hmm. And that's a tough spot to be in sometimes, because the first impression, I always give bad first impressions, not because I mean to, but that's just who I am. If you get to know me, then it's like, oh, we love him, but we didn't think we were going to, it's hard. It's really hard to overcome when you're like that. But just like very authentic. If you're authentic, it doesn't matter. Eventually people will realize who you are. It's the ones that try to fake everything that, people are attracted to initially, and then all of a sudden it's like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can't have the flashy marketing and trying to be something you're not, because even if it works, let's say that does work and it brings someone in, and it can, you've now brought in the wrong type of person. They're not going to last very long because they don't fit with your culture, with your message. They're not aligned with your values. So now you've just built this business around something that's not going to make you happy. And I think that's where a lot of people end up. And it's a fine line. I tell it's not necessarily binary or black and white in your marketing message. Like, sometimes you have to play in the gray area of telling people what they want to hear so that they come in, so that then you have their attention to tell them what they need to hear. And so you've got to kind of work this, like, you got to kind of toe the line a little bit in terms of that gray area, but you never need to cross over to something you're not comfortable with overall. Right. And it's just, you figure that out over time, and you develop a bigger voice, and you've been at this 14 years, you figured yourself out, right? You're very comfortable with yourself. That comes with time and experience as well. So kudos to you for being willing to do that and put it out there, because not a lot of people are secure enough to be able to do that. And I think that's a big piece of this whole thing too. You've been pretty resilient with all the changes, all the things going on. We were talking before this, before we started the recording, like this stuff going on right now, that your things are coming at you, and it's easy to put on this front as a business owner of, like, and especially, as somebody that's a trainer of the year, and you've got a little bit of celebrity status there with that. things are great, things are awesome. And, you were straight up the first time we talked, you're like, man, I got these things going on. I can't believe I got this. We talked before this, see, these are the things going on, but you're very resilient, and you persevere through that. Where do you think that resiliency came from? Like, how did you develop
My mother. No, seriously. I'll be 36 next week, and I think the older I get, the more I realize that my parents have had more of an impact on me than I ever thought. And both my parents are extremely resilient people, my mother especially. And I think I learn by example. And if you set an example for me, no matter what it is, I'll learn from it. And I think she's just a resilient person, tough person. I wish I had her attitude sometimes, because she can shake things off a whole lot better than I can. I think also, I won't lie to you. There's been times this year, like I told you, when we talked the first time, where I've kind of questioned myself, and it's been hard because things just come way out of nowhere. And I felt like my energy levels were down. The world's kind of hitting me, but at the end of the day, I know that I was put here to do this, and this aspect, and then others. I like to develop trainers. I like to consult with other businesses. I like new things that come along the way. So it's just not one-on-one personal training, but I feel like I was put here for this. This was my route to better the world. And I feel like that because of that, I can be resilient, and no matter what you throw at me, I'll tackle it.
I think that's an awesome lesson. It goes back to, this is your purpose. So even if there's obstacles in the way, there's a bigger meaning behind it. And that's tough to find early on. So I think advice for younger trainers from my end of this would be, if you're not quite sure of that, sometimes it takes some deep soul searching to figure out what that is. And it changes as you develop as a trainer, as a person, as life changes for you. But if you can anchor onto something, it helps to overcome these challenges. And when things get tough, and the thing that always comes to mind, I don't know if you've seen, it's a picture of the two guys underneath digging a tunnel, and there's diamonds on one side, and one guy gives up like this far from the diamonds, and the other guy keeps going. So many times the biggest breakthroughs, whether it's personal, business, whatever, come on this other side of the time you thought it was over, that it was going to be the hardest time in your life or in business. And sometimes those breakthroughs happen right after that. And so that's some advice, I think, from trainers, at least what I got out of that. Would you agree to that? I mean, have you noticed the same trend, that you just those breakthroughs come when you can be resilient and persevere through those things?
Yeah, I see that a lot, just in life in general, just in anything, with clients that I have that are business people who go through hard times. There's a quote, I'll butcher it, but it's right along the lines of that picture you mentioned, is, you're just one more try away from getting where it is that you want to be. And I feel that way. And I think a lot of people enter our industry because they're not really, they think it's easy, or they're not quite sure what their why is, their purpose. But the ones that do, a lot of times our business is hard, and they're stuck at a place where they don't think they could get out of it, whether it's working for somebody else or trying to start their own thing. And I think if you just dig deep in yourself and realize that what you're doing has purpose and it has meaning, no matter what external things go on, you'll keep going. And I think we get a lot, and I've done this. Big mistakes I've made this year are getting too much into worrying about things that I cannot control, and not focusing on the work that I'm doing with people, that no matter what happens, even if I got to file bankruptcy or the world falls apart, I've made a difference in that person I'm in front of. And that matters. That truly matters. And I think sometimes we take that for granted. I know I have, I get a text the other day from a client who just thanks me, And I'm like, God, here I am in my own head about all this other crap. And this person's like, I don't even know I'm making a difference, but I am. That means something. That matters. We lose sight of that. And this is a business where you can make a lot of difference in people. And it's the little things that matter the most. If you just get out of your own head, stop worrying about those things you can't control and worry about the things you can, better situation for everybody. And I'm talking to myself when I'm saying that. So just so you know.
Sometimes I do this all the time. I tell people I write blogs and do videos. And half the time I'm saying something that it's probably relevant to me because I need to be working on it just as much as everybody else. So I'm teaching.
I think you and I would be great friends because I think you do the same thing I do.
I'm sure that I do. As little as we've talked, there's been a lot of connections there. And I think a lot of people, if they're honest, it's that way, right? There's still a lot of people who are not comfortable enough to be honest with themselves or at least honest in something like this where, I don't know how many people will see this, but hopefully a lot. If people do see it, I don't want people to put me on a pedestal and think that like everything's just super easy because of what I do or any success I've had or any of that. We still deal with those challenges and stuff every day. I had a really challenging call right before this. Not great news, not awesome. Like, shake it off and okay, no big deal. I've got more opportunities ahead of me. It's nothing I could do to control it. Like, what can I learn from it and move on? That's the best you can do. I do want to touch on the philanthropy and the charity side of what you do. We run internally a big campaign called Revolution for a Cause. And so we try to get all of our coaching clients, our community involved in giving back and at whatever level that means for them. We have some people that are doing, $30,000, $40,000 a year. You're doing, going to hit $150,000 mark. And then some that just, they donate a little bit of time or they make whatever impact they can. So how did you get started with the philanthropy piece of your business?
Well, let's start back to where I got involved with philanthropy in life.
Okay.
And for those that are in their 30s and older, you'll know the dramatic impact that 9/11 had on everybody. And I was 19. And I remember the day that it happened. I remember everything that went around with that. I couldn't tell you the day before, the day after, but I remember. And I remember going to my savings account, which didn't have a whole lot of money in it. And I pulled out like $300. And at that time, the Red Cross was all over the place, just taking donations for everything because it was just such a disaster and such a tragedy. And I remember going and handing $300 in cash to the Red Cross. And my mom was like, "What are you doing? You don't have any money." I was like, "But these people need this, and I have it. I can make more money, So the giving thing has always been in me. I always felt that no matter where I was in life, I felt like I could always give more, whether it was to write a check for it or whether it's to actually go downtown and feed the homeless. So from a business standpoint, I realized when I worked for Urban Active that we had a humongous hole in our business. And the hole was because we did not do enough community work. We did not take care of the communities that we existed in. And when I went out on my own, that was priority number one, was to align myself with charities that I believed in, that if I gave them $20, I could see what they did with it. And it started, early on. I remember doing a boot camp for the American Red Cross. And then I was like, too big of an organization. I can't see where my money's going. So then the big charity event that I do, I train for 24 straight hours, and I raise money for a local charity that called Surgery on Sunday. They do free surgeries for people who can't afford them. And they'll do 15 to 20 surgeries every month, gallbladders, rotator cuff repairs, they even do dental work, etc. And the idea was I'll train for 24 hours and I'll raise money. Well, they thought it was crazy. Everyone else thought it was crazy. First time out, we raised $21,000. Last year, we raised 37. Right now, we're probably on pace to raise 50. It feels good. And it feels good to give back. And it feels good for me to be able to see the efforts that I put to be able to see where that goes. It is the most important thing to me above anything else, because I feel like that is God working through me to be able to better the world, to use my talents that I was given as a trainer to be able to help other people. And the best thing about it, Ryan, is other trainers have been inspired by it. I've had colleagues that have gone and done the 24-hour thing. They've done it, and they've raised money for local charities. Other people have done all kind of other charity events just because they've seen the things that we've done. And it just, to me, is the best thing that I feel like I have done. My third book, which is right here, I'm donating the proceeds of this book to a local organization that stops sex trafficking of women. And no idea that was even a problem until a year and a half ago. My girlfriend did some work for them, and she explained exactly what it was. And I was like, man, I don't understand this. So I did research on it. I watched YouTube videos. I reached out to them. They told me all the things. And I'm like, I'm not cool with this. I got to do something. So it started out with a clothing drive. And now all of a sudden I wrote a book. I donate the money to them. I feel like that really, when you say "To the Grave on Empty," this is the title of the book, and it's tattooed right here on my chest. I firmly believe that as a person, we're given all these gifts, and some people go to the grave with them. Why? Go and do the things that you want to do and better the world. And on the quote here, it says, "Quit living as if the purpose of life is to arrive safely at death." And I think that all that means to me is just leave it all out on the line. And that's why we're so into philanthropy.
That's a pretty powerful story. And, the cool part about it is, you're at where you're at now because you took the first step. You started with something small, just something you could do that meant something to you. And there was no ulterior motives behind it. It wasn't a marketing ploy. It wasn't, it was just, I need to give back. I feel like I need to give back. I have a connection to this one thing. And you started with something, and then you found the big thing that you can make a big impact on. And now you're continuing to roll with that. So, no matter where you're at as a fitness business owner, if giving back is important to you, just feel this need, just start something small. A lot of these organizations will take, when I ran my studio, we did the same thing, found local. I didn't want to work with big nationwide organization. I wanted to see something where I could actually get my hands on it, have an impact. And, we started small, kind of the same thing, charity boot camps, stuff like that. We built up to where we did a silent auction and had people donate in stuff, and, raised $20,000, $30,000 during that. But it never started that way. It started with, a couple $100 or $100 at a time. And eventually you gain some momentum. And then, like you said, at the end of the day, there are some benefits that come back to you. That's how you're known in the community now. And that's a huge marketing piece of what you do, but that's not the purpose behind it. And it means a lot to get involved with something like this as a small business owner, to be involved in the community. I just think the benefits to you will be tenfold whatever you put in, time or money wise. So get involved if you can, for sure. I know we're pressing on time here, and you've got a crazy.
Actually, I got like 20 more minutes. So whatever you want to cover, I had a cancellation at 8, so I was able to eat. So
perfect. Well, I'm glad you're able to eat. I don't want to keep you from lunch. So, we talked about a ton of stuff. There's a ton of great lessons in here. I'm taking notes so I can follow up when we post this and put kind of show notes in here, so to speak. But as we kind of wrap this up, what advice would you give to trainers now whether they're just starting out, looking to get into starting their own business, or if they've started their own business, but they've hit that roadblock, that challenge, where they're not sure if they can be resilient. What advice would you give them? Because you've been through a lot of this stuff yourself.
You know, for the advice for the new trainer, the industry changes so dramatically, and, you know, the generations have changed. You know, the millennials are now starting to get into the fitness business, and they work differently than the Gen Xers. You know, there's an attraction to online coaching, online training, online this and that. And all that's great. But I can tell you from experience, there's nothing like being live with someone or a group of people, and really digging in deep and really contributing to those people. No matter what your business model is, if you're training 30 people at a time or just one, there's nothing like that. Yes, great. Have other sources of income. Perfect. But I really, truly, this is a big statement because a lot of people go against me on this. I really, truly believe that if you're going to have just 100% strictly online business, you got to learn how to do it in the flesh first. And I think you need both in order to satisfy your needs. Also, realize that this business, in my opinion, is not about fitness. It is about people, and it's about how people behave. Their behaviors dictate their habits dictate their behaviors. And if we can figure out from a psychology standpoint, as a trainer, what drives people, what what their buttons are, where they've been, where they're going, I think you can really help a whole lot of people that way. The fitness part, bicep curl is a bicep curl. Squat's a squat. I don't care if you do it on a Bosu ball or you do it upside down or whatever. It's all the same. Those things don't change. The person in front of you and how you motivate them, that's the key. From a business standpoint, you cannot quit. There are going to be times where you want to. I mean, there's been times I throw my hands up in this office and be like, you know what? I don't need all this. I could live a simpler lifestyle in Hawaii. But that's not what I was put here to do. In this moment, right now, this is what I'm doing. And I believe in it. I love it. No matter how hard it is, I'm going to keep going. And I think there's help out there. You know, I've been made a lot of mistakes because I haven't asked for help. And that's why when you and I connected, and the moment I was awarded this award, this thing here was the thing that attracted me the most. I'm like, somebody's telling me something because I need some eyes on what I'm doing, because I'm not there mentally on this piece of my business. And I think that was the right connection. But all in all, I think if you understand your purpose and your why and why you love this, and it's for the right reasons, that's the only advice or the only thing you need. Everything else will take care of itself.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate it. As we wrap up here, where can people, if they want to follow what you're doing, maybe participate in buying a book, helping you with supporting that cause, where can they find you, follow you, buy the books? Where would you direct people?
Well, in order to buy my books, you can go to Amazon. I have 2 other books that are available for purchase. The second book, I donate all those proceeds to an organization called Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep, which does photography for stillborn babies. That is another long story that we didn't get into. And then the third book is available on the 21st of November. But all of that's available on Amazon. You can follow me on Twitter at Buff Gandhi. Instagram is Aspire Fitness KY. And then on Facebook, you can just find me under Josh J.B. Bowen.
Cool. And I'll put links under this depending on where you're watching this. If it's on our site or YouTube or where Facebook, wherever, I'll put links so everybody can get to those, and we'll make it really easy for this. And then I'll also put a link that if people want to learn how to get connected with Fitness Revolution, myself will direct them there for that, so they can go down. But this has been awesome, JB. I appreciate it. Thanks for being open and honest and transparent about your story, and sharing the lessons that you've learned. I think that's going to be invaluable for anyone watching. So appreciate your time, man, and appreciate all you're doing for fitness and your community and the impact you're making on the world.
Thank you. I appreciate you. This I really got a good feeling about this whole thing.
I think we're going to do some good stuff together.